Teaching your kids isn't necessarily easy, but one thing we do know is that kids love games. Which games do you have in your closet that are also educational? Stick around to find out. Let's get started with board games. Board games can be so much fun to play as a family, to teach your kids to play together if you have multiple children. And in this house, we love board games. One of our favorites is called Sequence for Kids. If you're familiar with the game Sequence, then it's just like that, but it's for like pre-readers, so they don't have to know how to read because they have, as you can see, like little pictures of animals. I love that it caters to the younger kids too.
Yes, and so, I mean, ages 3 through 6, and I know Mike, I would always take my 2-year-old when he was that little and put him on my lap, and he would play.
Yeah, so on that same note of making a game simpler for younger kids, we actually have Catan Jr. This belongs to my kids. If you're an adult and have ever played Settlers of Catan, then this is just the kid version. So this makes it really easy for the kids to be able to pick up on the whole concept of gathering the resources and how to spend them in a good way. And it's just a lot of strategy. There's math because they have to count the resources. It's just about being strategic and also, of course, taking turns, because sometimes in this game, turns can kind of take a while. So that's always helpful for kids to learn.
Yes. This is the perfect time to tell you, if you are loving these suggestions, then we want to send you to our playlist that we have collaborated with several other YouTubers that they're sharing their favorite games with kids. So be sure to check that out. We will list that in the description below, and you can see some other recommendations from other homeschoolers. Another favorite around here is Mancala. I loved playing this when I was a kid, and when my kids were I don't know, 6 is about when my oldest started to kind of get the hang of it.
The only problem is there are a lot of small parts. Mm-hmm. So don't keep it around a baby like my baby, because she'll probably put it in her mouth.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're just little tiny marbles, so don't have those around.
And you have to have the right amount too. You can't really lose too many of them, otherwise the game cannot be played.
That is so true.
It's a really good game. It teaches math skills, a lot of mental math, because you have to do it in your head as you go. You have to plan ahead.
And I would remember one of the rules that you couldn't do is like count out. So you couldn't like count how many were in one little container and make it go around the boards to be the best for you. So you kind of just had to sometimes take guesses, but then if you're starting to figure it out, certain ones can count and make it to the goal.
Mm-hmm. And this is a game that a lot of people just have in their closet, so that's a great thing to remember. One really good suggestion for early learners is memory. This is one of these games that my kids have just always played, and we found these sets everywhere. They're really cheap to find, even at a thrift store. You just gotta make sure all the pairs are there. But this is specifically a really cool one that I like. It's alphabet memory, so it's pairing the uppercase letters with their lowercase counterpart. I remember my kids as young kids like really learning this, because if you think about it, it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense what the letters look like.
Yes.
The uppercase and lowercase. So really helpful, especially for young kids, pre-readers. I highly suggest it.
Not just for young kids, for adults as well.
Seriously, my kids just beat me the other day. Like, legitimately, I wasn't trying to let them. It was kind of embarrassing. Another one I want to mention that's also for younger kids that can help them just get used to shapes and work on their fine motor skills is this game, Scramble. My husband and I actually bought this, I think, before we even had kids, because we both really loved this game. It has a little timer, and it has all the shapes, and you have the shapes to fit in here. You have to fill all the shapes with the correct pieces before the timer runs out. And when the timer runs out, it goes pop, and it like throws them all. And it's so fun.
I love it.
So that's a good one for young kids, just to learn fine motor skills, learn their shapes, and kind of work on just, I don't know, speeding things up. Maybe that's something your kids need to work on, because I know mine do. And then older kids that can read, I highly suggest Apples to Apples. Apples to Apples can teach, well, if your kids know how to read already, they don't really need to learn how to read, but they can practice their reading. It also teaches like different adjectives. It builds a child's vocabulary. Yes. And it also can reinforce which adjectives go with which nouns, because basically the point is you want to give a card, the best possible card for the adjective that is laid out in front of the group. It's very good for language arts skills, and it's really fun. So Stacey, I know you and your family play a lot of card games, and my family and we don't really play that many yet. So tell me about your favorite card games.
Okay, so we have a lot, but the easiest one when my kids were little is Uno. 1, teaches colors. 2, teaches number recognition.
Yeah,
So,
basically any kid can play this game.
yeah,
Trust
it's
me.
super easy, and once they know the rules, it's super fun. I mean, at this very table, we sit down, everyone's on a side, and we just go for it. Lots of fun. Another one that I had a recommendation of is Blink. It's the world's fastest game right here on the packet. Are you familiar with Speed, the card game?
Yeah.
So it's basically like that if you played Speed with like a deck of cards, but instead of matching like suit or color, it has different shapes and numbers, so you can match it based on if it's a lightning bolts match. So instead of doing like the numbers going up like in the Speed game, you would do it here with different colors, shapes, and numbers. Another one that we also have played a few times is Phase 10. So this teaches you, you have to, it's kind of like poker, like 2 sets of 3, 1 set of 3 and a run of 4.
So teaching certain card patterns
Yes.
that are or not necessarily common, so you have to be strategic to get these patterns in your hand to be able to play.
Lots of strategy, yes.
Right.
Now, one thing I do want to note, all of these different card games are super fun, great to play. You can also play almost all of these games with a deck of cards. So you don't have to go out and buy every single card game. Yes, they're fun, and like Uno is a little more exciting, but Uno's the same thing as like Crazy Eights.
Right.
You can play Go Fish with a deck of cards. You could play a certain version of Phase 10. You can play Blink with, like I said, the Speed card game that I played when I was in like middle school, high school.
Right.
So
Go
you can play
Fish.
Go Fish.
War.
Memory. War. I love that game.
War is easy, even
So,
for young kids.
if you just have a deck of cards, this is like the minimalist like card game.
We highly recommend just like staying minimalist. We know things can get out of control sometimes, but if you just want like one item, a deck of cards is great. Lastly, we want to mention Brain Quest. This is a great way to kind of incorporate a game show type style with your kids where everyone can participate and kind of chime in. There are all different grade levels for Brain Quest, and at each deck, so on each page of the deck, there's one question for each subject. So that would be science, language arts, math, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it really tests your kid all across the board, and it's super educational, but super fun as well. I remember doing Brain Quest when I was a kid, and I'm basically super smart, so highly recommend.
Jenny recommended this in her video about what you're using this school year.
Yeah.
And I'd seen these in school, but I'd never heard of them. So I got them for my kids. They love it. I don't know what it is. Like, if your kids don't like quizzes, this is a quiz in verbal form, and they kind of think it's fun because they don't know what questions they're gonna get, so they just get to know, oh, I knew that, or oh, I learned that. So it's really fun.
I think it's cool because on each page is a question from each subject. So you don't feel like they're being hammered with like math questions or language arts questions or whatever. It's all across the board, and I think it just like creates this huge breadth of knowledge so that they feel really confident.
And I learned things too.
True. What are some of your family's favorite games to play together? Let us know in the comments below.
Thank you so much for watching. If you liked these suggestions, be sure to check out the playlist linked below to see other homeschooler suggestions as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get more homeschool content just like this.
See you next time!